Hello, gang. This is Lori Eldred with Just a Social Worker, and I wanted to come to you real quickly with this episode and talk about a few things happening within the profession of social work, as well as to social works personally. So I really think it's important that you listen over the next couple minutes. I also will put some information in the show notes so that you have that to take action in whatever way works for you. Number one, late last week, the Department of Education has provided notice, lovely of them, that they are going to be making some changes in terms of what is considered professional and not professional in terms of education. And then that will further unlock or restrict funding that is available to students based on their professional or non-professional career path. So that is a huge issue because that is going to severely restrict and limit folks coming into the social work profession in terms of what they're able to access for student loans to help them pay for graduate school. In the state of Michigan, I'm going to just speak for Michigan because that's where I'm located. Most of the jobs, the social worker jobs that are available, that are posted, that people can apply for require an MSW, which is a graduate degree. If you want to be in private practice, if you want to be a school social worker, want to work for Medicaid, just a whole host of other things, clinical roles especially, you are going to be restricted. Probably restricted as being nice. I think also there is some very specific and very calculated decisions that are making, because restricting who is going to be able to get the social work degree will only really allow for people that have the money to pay for a graduate degree, or you're going to have to go into the private loan sector, which can be very costly in terms of interest rates and even just getting approved. If you're, a 20, 21, 22-year-old with not a lot of credit, I don't know that a bank is going to take tremendous risk to, give you this loan. Plus, the significant amount of the loan is going to make it tricky. So I think there's some calculated risks. Things I've been looking at, and folks that I'm following on social media is really talking about this as a long-term strategy of trying to break this system, perhaps even get it privatized even more, or even long term, right? Even a complete dismantling of our social welfare system. And that is big issues for us. The Department of Education will be having open comments, or they will be opening it up from feedback, from your Joe Blow citizen. So once I find that information, once I get a hold of that information, I'm going to do another episode and talk about that, as well as what we should be saying to the Department of Education and using our advocacy skills. So that's number one that's going on. Number two, NASW is doing a restructuring, for lack of a better word, and that is going to take all of the individual chapters that happen to be represented by each individual state plus the territories of the United States, and now doing a big reorganization that will now be grouping, like Michigan would be grouped with folks in the Midwest. This is very problematic because every state, especially in the Midwest, there's such a huge variety of issues and things impacting social workers, huge political diversity in the Midwest, even if you don't really think that there is. Like Michigan's pretty purple/blue, Indiana's very red, Illinois is very blue, Wisconsin's kind of very similar to Michigan, Ohio is mostly red, and so there's just huge diversity. I think it's going to really water down what leadership and NASW at the regional or even the state chapters can do for its individual social workers. It's probably going to be harder to get a hold of folks. It's going to be harder to engage in real grassroots organization. So if you are an NASW member, please let either the ED of the state you live in for NASW know that you support them. Email and the national headquarters, the national staff, that you're really not happy with this decision. It's really frustrating. It's coming now when the social work profession is starting to receive a lot of pressure, probably from the federal government. My worry is that this decision now is going to cause a lot of internal distraction, and social workers more than ever really need to be prepared and engaged and advocating and being boots on the ground to really call out the systemic issues happening within the United States. So again, I will put some links in the show notes. I don't want to make this a terribly long episode, but you can go to those show notes, get that information, advocate where you can. Lastly, a big issue happening, and I don't know that it's been a huge surprise for me, but Indiana University, or University of Indiana, I know I've just probably mixed those up, recently decided to suspend a professor from teaching a social work class due to a student in the class feeling very uncomfortable about the conversation about racism, implicit bias, and white supremacy. Some things that were used within a graphic that this professor used were MAGA and some other kind of terms that you're hearing a lot right now in the United States. And this professor, due to a recent law in the state of Indiana, allowed for her to report this concern because of an intellectual diversity law that was very vaguely written, that really is kind of one of those catch-all laws that you can kind of get anybody for saying anything that another person just like deems, this upsets me. I think a lot of that is white folks getting real upset, their white fragility getting pushed at and poked at, people having to face some realities that are not very kind or comfortable, right? Understanding white privilege, white supremacy, racism, how they have explicitly and implicitly benefited white people, right? How perhaps even your notions of how you see the world being challenged, how you've structured your worldview, how even your sense of self can be challenged, is incredibly uncomfortable and alarming and distressing for some white people. That's why you got to do the work. That's why we need more social workers, more trained social workers that are going to be great advocates, calling this out, pushing for change, educating, linking, coordinating all the things that we're doing, providing therapy, being at the macro level. You know, this is why we need social workers more than ever, and trying to limit that profession, make it non-professional, whatever that means, is going to cause some big issues. So anyways, let me get back off my tangent, my rant, and get off my tangent. So this professor was suspended, not allowed to teach this class. I'm going to also, again, post a link in the show notes, as well as a petition going around to get her teaching again, or at least get reinstated to teach this class. Really also distressing, given that like the director of the program, also social worker, also is bowing to this type of pressure, isn't able to say, hey, code of ethics says explicitly throughout the code of ethics that we are to confront implicit bias, that we are to have an anti-racist orientation, that we are to educate, advocate, and create change so that we have a less racist world. And the first way we start to have a less racist world, a world filled with less white supremacy, is we have to talk about it. We have to name it. We have to talk about that elephant in the room. If we're not even allowed to do that, things do not change, and we will continue to perpetuate a very deeply rooted system of white supremacy, oppression, marginalization of Black and brown communities. So please read, and I'm going to post an article. I'm going to post that petition, get it signed, because these are the things that us as social workers can do. These are also the things we need to really start being aware of. I think this incident in at the Indiana University, I know I said it wrong the first time, but Indiana University, I think this is going to be a start of something, of professors getting targeted, of social work profession getting targeted, of there having some real negative consequences. And we have a code of ethics for a reason, because that guides our professional career, that guides our decision making, that guides our supports and guides us through making good ethical decisions. It helps us have healthy boundaries. It helps us, not harm our clients, which is really important that we don't contribute to trauma that our clients have experienced. Whether you're a therapist, case manager, inpatient, social worker, whether you're at the hospital or at a school or at a prison or at a jail or in the legislature, we don't want to cause harm. That's nonsense. So let's get active, get involved. We got this. We can do that. And I will see you guys later. Bye.